Right, so I'm going to run through a few examples of the quadratic formula just so you can get a feel for how it works. This first example, I have 2x squared plus 7x minus 15 equals 0. Again, in order to use the quadratic formula, you must have your equation in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. You must have all the terms expanded on one side and a 0 on the other. And when you have it in that form, remember your final answer, your solution will be negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. All right, so it's one big fraction. Don't forget that 2a divides everything on the top. The entire b squared minus 4ac is under the root, and there's an extra negative on the b in the front. Okay, so there's all these little details that must be included or it's not going to turn out very well for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and attempt this. And again, I would suggest that every time you run through a quadratic formula problem, you write the quadratic formula down. It will help you to memorize it the more you write it down. Okay, so I've already written it down. Now I'm just going to substitute, but I've got to figure out what A, B, and C are going to be. Well, in this case, A is 2, B is 7, C is negative 15. We're going to include the negative if there is one. Okay, so those three values get plugged into the corresponding places in the formula. All right, so we're going to have x equals now negative b. Now, I like to replace all the variables with empty parentheses and then put the variable or put the values in. So this b is going to be an empty set of parentheses. It's just at least until you really get a feel for this formula. The b squared again is parentheses squared minus 4ac is minus 4 parenthesis parenthesis, and then you've got your 2a on the bottom. So everything is parentheses at first, then we plug stuff in. So the b's become 7. So there's a 7 there and a 7 there. The a's become 2, so there's a 2 there and a 2 there. The c becomes a negative 15. Okay. Once everything is in its proper position, then we go through and use the order of operations to simplify this. Now, it's a little bit of work, but we can do multiple steps at a time because things are separated out. So we can combine the negative and the 7 and make a negative 7. We can do the 7 squared under the root. That's going to be a 49. And then here I've got negative 4 times 2 times negative 15. Well, the double negative makes this a plus. 2 times 15 is 30, and 30 times 4 is what, 120? Right? Yeah. And then on the bottom I've got 2 times 2, which is 4. Okay, so that wasn't too bad. I was able to get several steps done in one shot. Now I can combine the terms under the root, so I get negative 7 plus or minus the square root of, let's see, what is that? That's 169 all over 4. Okay. And then the square root of 169 we know is 13. So this is x equals negative 7 plus or minus 13 all over 4. That's simplified very nicely. Now remember, with the plus and the minus, you've got to do two different operations. One you take with a plus, and one you take with a minus. Now I'm leaving myself a little space here because there's a fraction involved and quite a bit left to do. So let's do the plus. It's negative 7 plus 13 all over 4. If I follow that through to the end, negative 7 plus 13 is 6. Divide that by 4, it reduces to 3/2. If I use the minus, I get negative 7 minus 13 all over 4. Negative 7 minus 13 is negative 20. And when I divide that by 4, I get a negative 5. And so what we're going to find is that we have two solutions. And in my solution set notation, I'm going to put them in negative 5 and 3/2. And there's a final answer.